Coming up on Tech News Today, Amazon getting into the set-top video business, Yahoo getting into the Saturday Night Live video business itself, and LinkedIn taking over your contact list. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, April 25th, 2013, the Christmas of April. Tech News Today is brought to you by ProXPN. ProXPN is a virtual private network that allows you to use the internet the way it should be, anonymously and without oversight. For 20% off your new account, go to proxpn.com/twit and use the code TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Maya Zaktor.
I'm Alex Couple.
And this is the show we keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world. And we start every time with the top 10 stories of the day in the news feeds. As we've mentioned previously on Tech News Today, Google has offered up concessions on how they display their own and competitors' search results in the European Union as a way to avoid antitrust violations. The European Commission said today it is soliciting comments on Google's proposal, which it will take into account during its analysis, and it may decide to make the proposal legally binding.
LinkedIn is taking over your address book. The company's launched LinkedIn Contacts, a new iPhone app, and some web tools that puts all of the messages and the contacts and the events that you have on various accounts on devices on the internet and turns them into histories between you and all the people that you're connected with. The company says it's always up to date and it's more detailed than anything else like it on the market, kind of like a personal secretary.
According to Strategy Analytics, Windows tablets, that's both Windows 8 and RT, now own 7.5% of the worldwide tablet market. Microsoft and other PC makers moved 3.4 million units in the first quarter of 2013. Strategy Analytics said that market share could be higher if there were better distribution of the hardware and more top apps available for the platform.
Samsung's business-oriented version of Android, known as Knox, was supposed to launch with the Samsung Galaxy S4 this month, but sources tell the New York Times the launch of Knox has been delayed until summer, probably July, and even then it will be a more limited version of the software than was promised. A full-featured version will not be available until a later time.
Verizon has hired advisors for a possible $100 billion bid to take full control of Verizon Wireless from its partner, Vodafone Group, say two people familiar with the matter. The details, a roughly 50-50 cash and stock bid for the 45% stake in Verizon Wireless that it does not already own, but has wanted for some time now. Hasn't put a proposal to Vodafone just yet, but supposedly has hired banking and legal advisors for a potential offer.
Wiretapping laws are being circumvented thanks to secret deals between the U.S. Department of Justice and service providers like AT&T. The Electronic Privacy Information Center published internal government documents that show that these service providers are receiving immunity so the U.S. government can conduct surveillance on their networks. Normally, the Wiretap Act would prohibit such surveillance. However, consent by the service providers goes around the act.
Sony already had a pre-E3 announcement. Microsoft has one planned for mid-May. So what's going to be left for E3? Well, not a big Nintendo announcement. During a financial briefing, Nintendo President Satoru Iwata said the company will not host a large-scale presentation for an international audience this year at E3. Instead, the company will host smaller events targeted at software launching in the United States, one event for distributors and one for the media.
Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer is a Saturday Night Live fan. Such a fan, in fact, that she's made a deal with Broadway Video that'll give Yahoo exclusive online access to archived SNL content from way back in 1975 through 2013. This includes show clips, select musical performances, behind-the-scenes stuff, not actually full episodes of the show. Yahoo will also, though, have non-exclusive access to show current season Saturday Night Live clips in the U.S., and a license to distribute library show clips internationally.
Breaking news, WWDC tickets are now on sale and now sold out. Ubuntu 13.04, aka Raring Ringtail, came out today on schedule. Now, while many expected features have been pushed to the next release in October, reviews are largely favorable. Smart Scopes and its attendant privacy settings did not make it into this release. The photo lens did make it in, providing search across photos in Shotwell, Flickr, Facebook, and Google. The Ubuntu Music Store also moved out of the music player and into the sidebar. According to most reviews, the update seems a bit snappier.
What do you get the person who has everything? How about a coffee date with Apple CEO Tim Cook in Cupertino at Apple's headquarters? Well, that can be a reality thanks to a Charity Buzz auction. Here are the details. 2 people will get 30 to 60 minutes with Tim Cook, but cannot write about or record the experience in any way. Proceeds of the auction go to the RFK Center for Justice and Human Rights. The estimated value of the coffee date is $50,000, and as of 9 a.m. this morning, the current bid was $180,000.
Wow.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by ProXPN. As you just heard in our news views, more than ever, your online freedom and privacy are threatened. Governments and ISPs want to see what you do. They want to control what you see, and they want to keep a record of it, too. Plus, free Wi-Fi at the coffee house, airport, that's risky behavior that you probably shouldn't just open your internet connection to, open your computer to anyway, because your passwords and your sensitive data can be intercepted more easily than ever. That's why VPN is a good solution. Lots of great VPN providers out there, and I like ProXPN. It's a global VPN. I've been using it on my Mac. It's dead simple to use. They put a little lock icon up in the top right corner, and they have servers. Let's see, they got servers in Dallas, New York, Seattle, Los Angeles, even Amsterdam, Singapore, and London. Good selection of servers. They do both OpenVPN and PPTP. Now, if that doesn't mean anything to you, you can still be protected and use ProXPN. But for those who do know what that is, that means it's configurable. You can protect yourself against observation, whether it's by your ISP or somebody else that you don't trust. You can bypass filtering if you're in a country that does filtering or a situation where you're like, this filtering shouldn't be happening. Bypass geographical restrictions. ProXPN software for Windows and Mac offers advanced controls, allowing you to select the programs and ports you want to anonymously route through ProXPN's servers. And it works with iOS and Android devices as well, allowing you to use your data plan or your corporate Wi-Fi with complete and total privacy. Steve Gibson reviewed it on Security Now, said, I vet it. Great review. If Steve Gibson likes it, believe me, I'm going to like it too. It's a global VPN solution. Any online application can work with ProXPN, including your web browser, your email, your file sharing, and your instant messaging programs. It gives you unfettered access to any website. So check it out. Go to proxpn.com/twit for more information and to sign up. ProXPN premium accounts are normally $9.95 a month or $74.95 for an entire year, but we've got a special offer for you. Use the code TNT and receive 20% off for the lifetime of your account. This is a great deal for people who need to use a lot of VPN, need to push a lot of bandwidth. That's less than $5 a month on the yearly plan. If you're not satisfied, you can cancel within 7 days for a full refund, so there's no reason not to give it a shot. ProXPN.com/twit. Sign up with the code TNT, and we thank ProXPN for their support of Tech News Today. Joining us now to discuss the news of the day, very happy to have Patrick Beja back on the show from patrickbeja.com, host of Le Rendezvous Tech. Is my pronunciation getting any better?
I'm going to go with yes. How are you doing?
That's awfully kind of you to say. I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start off with Amazon's announcement. We mentioned it in the news views yesterday. It was late breaking news. Getting into the TV set-top box business. Sarah, what have we been able to glean since yesterday morning?
Well, people familiar with the matter.
I love them.
They're great because they
They're a
talk
great
a
band.
lot. Yeah, they're wonderful. They tell Bloomberg that Amazon is going to release a set-top box, like an Apple TV, like a Roku, that type of a thing, later this year, which would provide access, obviously, to Amazon's video services, of which, there are more each day, really. Amazon Video on Demand Store, possibly to be called the Kindle TV. What's interesting is it's reportedly being developed by Amazon's Lab 126 division. This is the lab that's also responsible for the Paperwhite, the Kindle series of tablets. The lab is based in Cupertino, California, which is the same place that Apple's headquarters are. And to me, I think that this makes a lot of sense. The project is being run by Malachi Moynihan, who used to be a VP at Cisco. And in the late 1980s and early 1990s, Moynihan was at Apple for 9 years. There are other hardware engineers that work at Lab 126. A top engineer from TiVo, also worked at Voodoo. So there are definitely people who are working in Amazon's division of people building hardware that come specifically from content hardware backgrounds. Patrick, do you think that this is just the next logical step if Amazon wants to get more into video and exclusive series to make something that we see on big TVs?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that doesn't sound unexpected. Their policy always seems to have been, at least for the past 3 or 4 years, to try and be everywhere. They're on iOS, on Android, on top of their proprietary hardware. So it's not surprising at all. And they've been ramping up the content. They just recently released a series of pilots that they're going to be producing, or at least people can vote on. So they're going big on video as well. And there's no reason, basically, to not have a TV experience. That's really not surprising at all. Is it going to be good? That's another question. But surprising? I don't think so.
As Amazon's known for selling hardware at very competitive prices. Sometimes they take a loss because they want to make it up later in buying of stuff. Can you see yourself actually browsing Amazon in a TV kind of experience, or do you think this is video only?
I could see it being. It could be a nice tie into the stores as well. I was thinking about the price issue with Amazon. They sell the stuff at cost or at a loss, as you mentioned. To think how cheap the Kindle is, generally is like, what, $89, or the HD version is like $99 or $129. If you take off that screen and you just attach that to a television, that's going to be dirt cheap. It's going to be probably cheaper than a Roku out there. And the fact is they already have all these special offers on their devices. What would be that different if you had a TV experience where you could easily shop Amazon with one click? Could you imagine one click on your remote control, how easily you could buy stuff? Just if you were like, I want to watch a season pass, or I'm going to go get that shirt I saw on that show. You could do that so much easier with this kind of thing. It wouldn't surprise me if they kind of use that X-ray technology and they started making little tags for items that show up in programming, movies, and things that you can get on Amazon.
Tom, do you think that an Amazon Kindle TV would have a Netflix app? I mean, that's something that you can currently do on a Kindle Fire, for example.
Right, but you can't do the Nook app easily on the Kindle Fire without doing a little workaround, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really good question, because on the Fire, you have video apps that are in competition with Amazon Instant and Amazon Prime On Demand, but you don't have book apps. So the Amazon's got both in their history. I think they have to, though. If they want this to be taken seriously at all, they have to have Hulu on there. They have to have Netflix on there. It'd be a good idea to try to strike a deal with YouTube, although I'm sure Google's not incredibly friendly with Amazon right now because of their skinning of Android and leaving Google out of all of those Kindle Fire sales. I am very curious what they end up with. I do think in the end it's going to matter is the interface. How good are they at delivering the content that they have? Obviously, step one is they've got to have all the content we want. They have to have the Netflix and the Hulus and all of that stuff. But do they make it better than the Roku? Do they make it better than the Apple TV? Do they make it easier to use? Because that's really where the differentiation is. I can go out and get all kinds of devices that will satisfy my video needs right now. What's going to set Amazon's apart will have to be the interface. And I'm very happy that they're in this market, because the more competition we get in here, the better chance we have of somebody coming up with something that really does what we all want.
Or maybe Amazon will pay us. That's the kind of loss that we're looking
offer.
at. Yeah.
Like, you know what? Go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, I was going to say, Tom, you're saying the thing that would set Amazon apart would be the interface. All the interfaces are more or less, on those types of devices, they're more or less equivalent, and they're not bad, but they're not.
No, they're
good.
not.
Well, do you think there's one that is incredibly better than the others?
They all suck. That's what I'm saying.
Right,
They're all
exactly.
different. They're all bad.
Right, but they're all kind of similar. And I think if Amazon does create one interface that is kind of not great, what's really going to differentiate is what Ayaz was talking about. It's the price. I think that's where Amazon can really make a difference. But
And that's what they did with the Kindle Fire. So maybe that's the attempt that they'll make is to differentiate on price. In any case, it'll be cool to see what they do. Yahoo is getting into the video game as well. They've been in the video game for a long time. They have a lot of original content as well as deals that acquire content, but they acquired a big name, we heard in the news views.
Yeah, today Yahoo announced that it picked up the rights to Saturday Night Live, and it's going to be the exclusive home to 38 years worth of clips from SNL. This archive is going to start. It's going to be available starting on September 1st, 2013. And archived SNL content is going to be removed from other video platforms because it's going to be on Yahoo and Broadway Video's digital hub that they're putting together at Yahoo. So it's going to be there for 1 year, and then they'll start trickling out everywhere else. The deal does also bring full episodes of the current season of SNL, but that's a non-exclusive deal, which means you'll still see other sites with full episodes. It's just the clips that are just going to be exclusive for 1 year for Yahoo. Yahoo is also able to distribute its SNL clips outside of the U.S., but that's also a non-exclusive deal. So the exclusive thing that Yahoo got was 1 year of SNL clips that they get to show. Patrick, does this seem like a big move, a small move? It's just one program, but it's got a ton of video clips.
SNL is not one thing that, it's the one American icon on TV that I'm not super into. But it seems to me that Yahoo, it's a confirmation that Yahoo wants to get bigger in the video space, right? They have that discussion going on with Dailymotion and trying to buy at least part of it back from Orange. And there was a lot of speculation about how that was going to happen. And the main thing we took out of this was that they indeed want to get into video in a much bigger way. I think that's one other indication that that's indeed the case. Whether or not 1 year of exclusive clips, not even full episodes for that thing, I don't know. Is it that valuable? Is it really a big deal? You're the Americans. You tell me.
Sarah, what do you make of having this, let's say, the Justin Timberlake clips exclusive to Yahoo for a year?
I am an SNL fan. I watch it almost every Sunday morning on Hulu. I watch the full show, though. It's kind of a long show, so I'm sort of doing other things. So I'm not, even though, I'm a big fan, I'm really never going to look at clips. I sort of like to watch it as if it were live. So this is not really something that I feel like I would take advantage of. That said, if it would include, is it going to include the stuff that's like the web only, the Andy Samberg type of a stuff?
Behind the scenes and rehearsal stuff will be there.
Yeah, so I mean, if Yahoo actually has certain clips that you might not even see in the show, kind of like potentially viral, funny song type stuff, I can see that being interesting for Yahoo, driving more people to Yahoo specifically to watch stuff that everybody else is talking about. But in general, I don't think this is a really great deal. I mean, I think it's sort of like Saturday Night Live is a big name, but it's not really a big partnership here.
Tom, is this a loss for other companies like YouTube and Hulu because they're losing these clips?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a step down the road for Yahoo. The significance here isn't what we're going to get out of it because we're not getting that much as consumers. What it is that Yahoo has started to strike big name deals, and they struck it with the distributor, not with the network. And I think that's important to pay attention to here. That is where this business is going. You strike a deal with the people who make the content, not the other middleman who distributes the content. So it's important for Yahoo to be able to start creating relationships like this. Remember, Netflix, when they started, they had to choke on a lot of crappy programming. They had to just build on documentaries, which were good, but maybe not that popular. And now they're starting, we'll talk about this a little later, to narrow their focus. Yahoo's at the other end of that road. They're at the very beginning stage where they'll look, we'll take almost anything. It's got a nice big name, Saturday Night Live, attached to it. That's good for branding. Let's start there to show that we can strike these kind of deals.
Yeah, when I'm looking at this deal, the fact that SNL is so old and there's such a vast library, and there's years where you have a lot of young talent like Eddie Murphy when he was really young, and you have these clips available there. I think it would help for Yahoo's user base to go, oh yeah, that's on Yahoo. I'll have this ability to share this on Yahoo Mail or my news site or whatever. I think it's a good first step. I'm kind of curious if this means one day we'll eventually see that Yahoo Hulu deal that was rumored a long time ago.
Let's turn to our contact list because that's making news today. LinkedIn wants in. They're invading my contact list.
Geez, Tom, you make it seem like you're not interested in LinkedIn revamping your contacts list to become the smart contact management system.
The new Plaxo.
That will allow users like you to integrate connections on LinkedIn, but also connections that you have with Google, maybe Yahoo Mail account, Microsoft apps, Evernote, TripIt, stuff that's on your iPhone. The whole idea, as LinkedIn sort of proposes it to us, is that we are connected with people all over the web. You kind of have to take Facebook out of this because that's a closed network, but there are contacts that you've interacted with a variety of places. They're not all in one place. It's almost like LinkedIn wants to create some sort of a contact management system that's almost like an IM, right? An IM client where you could pull in, AIM and GChat and ICQ and that sort of thing, but for contacts that you have. So there are a couple different things. There's the contacts system. It's going to come in stages, so it's limited to some people in the U.S. Then it's going to open up to the rest of the U.S. Then it's going to open up to LinkedIn's user base in the rest of the world. There's also a contacts app for iPhone. That's new. And this will work with, again, a variety of places. There are Gmail contacts that I've worked, Gmail contacts that I have in my contacts list, but maybe it's somebody that emailed me once, maybe even like an audience member of TNT type of thing. And LinkedIn says they're going to use sort of algorithms to make sure that my contact list is weighted. So if Ayaz and I are talking all the time, he's going to show up higher on the list than someone that I maybe conversed with once. So it's not just sort of like the old alphabetical system. Ayaz, do you feel like there's sort of a contacts need to condense all of this stuff in one place? Is LinkedIn doing something that you feel that you will use?
I think there definitely is, especially with LinkedIn being the company doing it, because LinkedIn is that network for business, and usually you're going to put serious information there, legitimate contact information, and a much fuller profile than you would necessarily on a Google profile or you would do on Facebook or anywhere else. I know I was managing my contacts, so I've been switching phones left and right every time I test a device for before you buy. And getting my contacts list from Google, I have 500 and something contacts because I've dealt with PR people in the past, maybe 5 years ago when I had my Gmail account, and it's still in there. I had to go in and delete them myself. This weighted system would allow me to have pretty much any device, any website, allow me to have my contacts in that list. I think that could be pretty killer. Although, as Tom mentioned, it does remind me of Plaxo, which was that, I'm not going to go do that. It seems a little bit invasive, but it's LinkedIn, so I kind of trust them a little bit more, minus their whole password debacle.
Patrick, what do you think? Do you look at the list of all the services that LinkedIn wants to put together to have all of your contacts in one place as something that's necessary?
Well, personally, I already kind of manage my contacts through Gmail, and that's worked out pretty well. It's synchronized everywhere, but managing contacts is not really something that's fun. It's one of those things that nobody wants to do, and there is a problem to solve there. I don't really love LinkedIn as such. It's kind of I think Tom mentioned he also doesn't really see where it fits in our social media space. So I'm not the biggest fan of LinkedIn, but there is definitely a room for some company that will manage my contacts in a way that will be headache free. Plaxo tried to do it, and it's kind of it didn't really work out, but LinkedIn already has some brand recognition, and it doesn't do just that. LinkedIn also has your contact information already, your contacts information is already updated by those contacts on a regular basis. So they could fulfill that promise of having a contact list that is always up to date because they have all the information you need. So I don't know, why not? I'm sure those who already use LinkedIn a lot will be very interested, and there's a lot of those people out there. So I think it's probably a logical step for LinkedIn to at least try.
I desperately want someone to fix contacts and contact syncing, but I don't think LinkedIn's it because, once again, it's a company who is doing it for another purpose. And that's what always causes the problem. Plaxo was the worst example of that. And I don't think LinkedIn will be as bad as them. But for instance, no Facebook and Twitter contact imports because they say our members are focused on professional life, but no Salesforce or other CRM networks integration yet because they say our current focus is making it easy to manage personal relationships, not leverage those in the workplace. In other words, they're like,
which one is it?
We really just want to do what's good for LinkedIn. We're not really in the business of managing contacts. That's why I'm not so excited about this.
Well, naysayer
You're
merit.
such a buzzkill.
Yeah. I thought you were going to
All
love
right.
this. Almost as much as Card Munch. It's another LinkedIn app.
That's them. Huh?
Yeah.
That may have just changed my opinion. I don't know. Let's talk about Netflix. They had their earnings call earlier this week, and then yesterday they posted a big manifesto, an 11-page mission statement on their investor relations site. There's a lot to read in there. Few highlights. They focus on apps. They say the future of television channels is apps. HBO and ESPN and BBC even get this. Networks that don't get making top apps are going to die, essentially, is what he says. Their focus at Netflix is narrowing. I mentioned that earlier. They are not interested in topical stuff like The Daily Show. They're not interested in sports. They're not interested in reality shows. A quote is, we have to be a focused passion brand. Starbucks, not 7-Eleven. Southwest, not United Airlines. HBO, not Dish. But they also identify HBO as their biggest competitor. They believe they'll triple HBO subscribers, but they say, quote, it will be several years before we are peers with them in terms of original programming, Emmy Awards, and international members. Surprisingly, they dismissed cord cutting. They say services like Netflix or MLB.TV, iTunes, none of those are having an impact on multi-platform video distributors, MPVDs, like cable companies, and so we're not a problem. We want to play nice. In other words, please partner with us, ISPs. We want to help you and come into a partnership. Also made a nod towards 4K streaming. So, Ayaz, that's a very condensed version. But what do you think of Reed Hastings' vision for the future of online video?
I think he's trying to make sure that Netflix isn't a repository for crud. That's pretty much what I'm looking at here. And the fact is, because Netflix is so low cost, they don't need to say, yeah, we're competing with these other things. We need to be greater than this. And they also don't want to annoy enough of those cable companies, because you can get Netflix on pretty much any device, including, I believe, some set-top boxes let you do that with your cable company. So they want to make sure they're playing nice with as many parties as possible. And this idea of not having topical content, that makes a lot of sense to me, because they want to build a big catalog that you can say, oh, right, that quality content that doesn't age poorly, that's on Netflix, versus something like, watching Comedy Central, or you're seeing these things that are aging quickly. Like, you're probably not going to see Tech News Today on Netflix, because tomorrow it's going to be outdated already. So I think it's a really smart move for Netflix to be very, very focused on quality catalog.
Sarah, do you agree? Do you think Reed Hastings' quality focus is a good idea?
Well, I guess I'm a little tripped up on the whole something like The Daily Show, in a topical category would not be considered, a passion brand or quality. I get where they're going. And I think he's smart to say, listen, we're going to start with one specific area. We can't do it all. Netflix is not known as a brand that people equate with great sports programming. But I don't necessarily think that would be the right attitude long term. I think, like he said, it's going to take a while for people to say Netflix and HBO, yeah, brands like that have all these great shows, because HBO, it took a really long time for HBO to sort of become synonymous with some of the best TV out there. But I don't know. It's interesting to me. It's interesting to me that he says Southwest, not United.
Yeah, I was a little curious about that one myself.
I mean, not
guess
that I think United
long-haul,
is a great brand, but I got my problems with Southwest as well.
International versus domestic. I don't know. Patrick, what do you make of this? I mean, it is a little interesting to say The Daily Show, great show, not our passion. We're going to focus on coffee. Starbucks doesn't serve ice cream. We're not going to serve The Daily Show.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of almost political correctness, not political, but he's saying sort of self-serving things in there. He's not angering anyone. He wants to make nice with everyone, which is fine. What I find really interesting there is that Netflix is sort of shifting into something that we thought was going to happen at some point, which is creating, some new companies creating great content. But wasn't the promise of Netflix initially that they would be the repository for everything, and that you would pay one subscription fee and that you would have access to a wide catalog? Obviously, that's not going to work very well, but because people don't want to, give away their precious programs. But what future does it paint that we're going to have Netflix on one hand, Amazon on the other, HBO, which is not going to go away if they play it smart, and you're going to have a number of different content producers with a number of subscriptions. Are you going to have to subscribe to every, to every one of those networks? And is that going to be a poor replacement for what we have today, which is the cable company system? Or maybe not a poor replacement, but at least a system that will be as expensive. I think that focus is great, but it does pull away from the universal subscription for everything, all you can eat video content that would cover all your needs.
Yeah, no, I had the same thoughts. It's not going to bring down the cost in the future. I guess it will be a little more customizable. We'll get our a la carte, but it'll still be an arm and a leg. Let's talk about smart glasses, because IHS iSupply has some interesting projections on how many of these we're going to be seeing shipped over the next few years.
Yeah, IHS iSupply published a report talking about smart glasses between the years 2012 and 2016. I looked at this like 3 or 4 times to make sure it wasn't a typo. 2012, last year, and 2016, IHS iSupply says that approximately 9.4 million units of smart glasses would ship. And they said that 50,000 smart glasses shipped in 2012. So I'm not exactly sure what they're categorizing as smart glasses at this point. They said that this year growth is 124,000 smart glasses, mostly developers getting things like Google Glass. IHS says by 2016, shipments of smart glasses may rise to as high as 6.6 million units in 2016. But then IHS also gave a pessimistic scenario where these smart glasses are more like wearable cameras. There would be 1 million smart glasses shipped through 2016. This seems pretty low. So it could be anywhere between 1 million or 9.4 million. Patrick, for some perspective, the iPhone sold 125 million iPhones sold in 2012, 18.1 million Macs sold in 2012. Does 9.4 million sound too low for smart glasses?
It's analysts. They're funny. They're like, well, it could be 1 million, it could be 9 million, it could maybe if by the end of it they none of them sell, or like 100,000 of Google Glass, they could say we were only off by 900,000 because they predicted it might be 1 million. There's no doubt that everyone is working on these things, or at least it's an area of intense interest, I guess we could say. Yes, they could sell a lot. I was very skeptical, very, very skeptical about Google Glass a year ago when they first introduced the concept. If at that point IHS had said they would sell that many, it would have been an impressive prediction. By now, with the current state of Google Glass and the promise that it shows, 9 million, 1 million, it's such a wide range. Sure, yes, I agree. It could be that.
Tom, what do you make of the numbers? I mean, 9.4 million in a vacuum sounds nice, but then you look at Macs, 18.1 million. There's a tiny percentage of the computer market right there. If half the amount of people who own Macs bought these smart glasses, that'd be the number.
Yeah, Patrick's right. I mean, these numbers are hard to predict right now. They're making an educated guess. I do think that we won't see glasses sell as fast as most other products because they're new, they're different, and it's going to take a while for people to get used to them, and they'll be expensive. They may not be $1,500. They may come down from that price, but they'll still be around $1,000, I would guess. So this is not going to be something that people are going to be leaping out of the door to buy up in droves yet. Whether it takes till 2016 to reach 9.4 million, and we could quibble all day, but I do think that they will sell in the millions and in the low millions at the beginning. I'm like you. I'm wondering where that 50,000 current glasses shipped. I tried to look around and see if I could find out some more about that number. I don't know if that counts Google Glass developer units that are already out there, whether it counts like the Oakley things with the earphones. I don't know what that counts. I'd be curious if anybody
Google has
knows.
like a secret town under the earth.
Yeah,
or
right.
something.
They tell IHS
It's wearing glasses.
They had that. And maybe they're thinking of GoPros. I couldn't figure out what the number is about that 2012 because I don't think the developer edition of Google Glass came out till this year
there are more
anyway.
than 50,000 GoPros out there though, so that
I don't know
can't
what
be
they're
right.
talking about.
weird.
Sarah, what do you think about the numbers? Do you think they're completely wrong? Like, everyone will be wearing them because people will upsell glasses when you go to get when you get your eyes checked. Like, you don't need corrective lenses, but it's part of your insurance. We can give you this thing for a discount. Do you think this number is just too low?
Oh, insurance companies aren't going to give us smart glasses, but no, I don't think this is a whole lot different than a wearable anything. I think that we've seen with the Nike fuel bands and there's a variety of wearable technology that's out on the market right now. Not everybody has it. The people that do say, "Oh, it's really cool. Hey, look what you do," and you go, "Oh, neat." But it doesn't. It's not I have to have this type of a thing. Maybe smart glasses are going to turn into something that people find. If you don't have them, then it's like you've walked out of your house, without your shoes on type of thing. But I don't really see that.
I'm just very curious if this could be something like a Bluetooth headset. A lot of people have them. They sell. There's lots of those sold. Doesn't mean you wear them all the time. Doesn't mean you use them all the time. But I could see having another device where you're like, okay, I'm doing an activity where this is required. I'm going to grab my glasses because this is an option. 2016, I'm expecting the prices to drop, hopefully below $1,000, because it seems like that technology is going to pair with another device like a phone that's going to get more and more powerful and should be able to do this. So maybe it's not that it's a monstrous hit that everybody has like a phone, but it's something that you just have as an accessory.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do our own internal survey here. If they go down to $500, with what you know of the Google Glass project today, would you buy it or not?
Yes.
I'm buying it.
Sarah?
Yes. Sarah?
Yeah, probably. As long as it doesn't
Patrick?
look stupid.
Yes, I guess.
4 out of 4 nerds agree that these numbers are completely
look at
wrong.
where we were.
So, yeah, maybe
obviously
more than that.
we would all
I think
buy
we're
it.
horribly
selection
bias at work here. Yeah.
We'd be weird if we didn't buy them at any
guess,
price.
but there are at least 9 million people like us out there in the world, right? So
Let's finish up with a letter sent, posted on Defective by Design today, sent to the W3C, opposing something called encrypted media extensions. That's an attempt to allow DRM to work better with the HTML5 standard. The letter was signed by the Free Software Foundation, Electronic Frontier Foundation, Creative Commons, Fight for the Future, Open Knowledge Foundation, Free Culture Foundation, Open Technology Institute, several chapters of different pirate parties around the world. EMEs were proposed by Google, Microsoft, and Netflix, and they're supported by Tim Berners-Lee. The EME does not specify a DRM scheme. It's not actually putting DRM into HTML5. It supports, among other things, simple decryption without the need for DRM servers. Now, the W3C HTML working group has a member named Manu Sporny who explained problems with EME back in January when this was first proposed, saying the problem is DRM will still be easy to defeat, and it will still allow proliferation of proprietary plugins, so it won't work the same across browsers. That's not what the W3C should be involved in, is encouraging balkanization of the market. Tim Berners-Lee at South by Southwest in March said, look, if we don't put the hooks for the use of DRM into the standard, people will just go back to using Flash. So he says it's not an ethical problem to put EME in there because it's not, in fact, a DRM scheme, and it would be worse to let DRM just exist outside of the standard. So the question seems to be, should the W3C, the standard-setting organization for HTML, make it easier for companies to implement DRM schemes or not? Patrick, what do you think?
DRM is there's such a difficult problem, and this makes it even more difficult because the HTML5 is all about openness, and that's something the community that supports that kind of efforts is not really a big fan of DRM. If Tim Berners-Lee doesn't have a problem with it, it sort of makes it easier to not have a problem with it. But the list of people who don't like this is so gigantic with such respected people, organizations, that I would tend to. I don't know enough about the EME's technical aspects to judge exactly, but I think there's one thing that people are missing when they're talking in absolutes. They're saying, DRM will not work because people will circumvent them and then it will annoy the proper customers. I think there's one aspect, which is DRM is not necessarily to make it impossible for anyone to circumvent them. they're about, at least in part, to make it annoying enough for people to circumvent that it will be a more interesting proposition to pay an appropriate fee to get the content. And I think a lot of the efforts of the movie and music industry today are going in that direction. They're trying to make it, they know they're not going to get rid of piracy, but if they make it they fight it enough and they make it annoying enough, then you give the legitimate outlets an even bigger fighting chance. And so in that sense, if the W3C doesn't integrate the EMEs, they do cut themselves away. They cut HTML5 away from an important part of the ecosystem. So I would tend to think that, yes, they should integrate them, but it's still a difficult question.
Well, and that's the thing. One of the objections is DRM is still circumventable. Even with the hooks. The other objection is it will encourage proprietary plugins that won't work in an open way across platforms, but that will be true if you don't put the hooks in there. So, Ayaz, what do you think? Is it just about we shouldn't encourage them to use DRM?
Well, I think the implementation of this, and I was reading about this, is the fact that you would have these different plugins still necessary, similar to what would happen if you didn't put it into HTML5. The thing is, if you want HTML5 to progress and you want to get this thing moving and you want to get video on there and you want the content producers behind it and you want everybody to shift to it and move away from Flash, it's almost like you have to allow a DRM scheme. It seems, though, that the fact that the scheme is not actually standardized, or it's not this one particular thing, that seems to be an issue. The thing about DRM, I'm telling you, if for some reason, if it was a standard and everybody could use and open the files, if it's seamless and you don't even notice it's there, that's great. That's the way it's supposed to work. If it's like you log in a password, something like TV Anywhere, if that works every single time, people usually don't complain about DRM. It is when it fails, that's when it's the most annoying. And in this case, because there's no one particular spec, that seems to be just as annoying as it would be right now.
And that's the problem, is the W3C, if they implemented it as a standard, would have to make it open, which would mean it would be easy to defeat, even easier to defeat, because everybody would know how it works. I tend to still think this is not necessary. I get why Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the web, says, look, we need to do this because they're going to do it anyway. But that argument works the other way for me as well. They're going to do it anyway. Make them work harder at it and start to realize that DRM just inconveniences the end user, and you need to come up with a better solution than that. That is open and that is transparent and does work for everybody else. This is a tough one because they're not implementing DRM. They're just making it easier to implement DRM. That's why these organizations are like Free Software Foundation are so upset about it. Let's move on to the randomizer. Carlene Stevens of the National Museum of American History has been looking at some wax discs that were from the lab of Alexander Graham Bell. She contacted Carl Haber at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in Berkeley, California, and said, hey, you've been doing some great things recovering old audio recordings from the 1800s. I think I've got one with Alexander Graham Bell's voice on it. Can you help me with that? So well, there he is.
Very rude.
Right there. Excuse me, Mr. Bell. Anyway, he got together, Haber got together with Earl Cornell and Peter Alea, analyzed the Volta Lab discs, unlocked that sound that you just heard, which had been inaccessible for more than a century. It's one wax and cardboard disc from April 15th, 1885, which has Alexander Graham Bell on it saying, he says something kind of pompous, speaking to you now, the voice of Alexander Graham Bell, or something like that. Oh, here it is. In witness whereof, hear my voice, Alexander Graham Bell. Can you play it again, Alex?
That's so cool. I love it.
Yeah.
It feels like something out of Doctor Who or Star Trek, like getting this witness of ancient times. Well, not that ancient, but it's very cool.
Yeah, no, this is pretty nifty stuff. You can go to the SmithsonianMag.com. It's part of the Smithsonian Magazine content for this coming month, and you can listen to it yourself. We'll have the link in the show notes. Let's look at the calendar now, shall we?
Let's do it. Nokia has scheduled a Lumia event in London on May 14th. YouTube is going to live stream its first ever comedy week. Everybody's getting into comedy. Twitter, now YouTube, May 19th through the 25th, which is going to bolster its channel surfing agenda, so says the Next Web. And the WWDC is happening June 10th through the 14th at Moscone West Convention Center in San Francisco. Tickets, $1,600, sold out in 2 minutes this morning.
2
2 minutes.
Wow.
2.
Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
We got an email from Nick Bonder, Sergeant, U.S. Marine Corps, retired. He says, I was thinking about show episode 738, and you talked about Connect getting a Pizza Hut app. That's all well and good, but it is not the first time pizza was integrated like that into gaming. I remember EverQuest 2 getting a command /pizza that would bring up a way to order Pizza Hut pizza in the game. That was 2005. Like Tom said, pizza delivery is on the front lines of the bleeding edge. Semper Fi.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your service, and thank you for your pizza tips. Patrick, I don't mean to make you tread into something that you can't comment on, but can you share an opinion of pizza and gaming?
I can only say that I'm extremely happy to see that pizza delivering technology is getting back in the center of our attention field span. And yeah, that's all I can say.
More pizza coming soon to games near you. That is it for this episode of Tech News Today. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us. Let folks know what you're up to, where they can find your work online. You got some great stuff out there.
Thank you very much. They can go to patrickbeja.com to see all my links to my social media things. And also, if you like French, if you speak French and like tech news shows and stuff like that, I have links to the shows I host over there as well. That's patrickbeja.com.
You can always help us put together our show rundown at technewstoday.reddit.com. That is a place to suggest stories for the show. Say, hey, you know what? I would like this story to be on. Or you could just look at the stuff other people have submitted and say, I also would like that one. And you can vote it up. Or you could say, oh, I hope they don't talk about that. Vote it down. It's all there, technewstoday.reddit.com. Don't forget, you can always find all of our links and show notes and whatnot at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. And give us a call. Leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. Sarah's got the day off tomorrow, but Brian Dunning will be joining us. We'll see you then.